So Game Freak's just been handing out the shiny Pokemon lately through Pokemon Home. We have shiny Enamorous. Wait a second, that's an exclusive shiny Pokemon because every legendary is just shiny locked these days. Oh, and if you never reset for the mana fee, now you just get one for completing the dex. So this is what the Pokemon Company has been up to. Receive special Pokemon as mystery gifts for completing specific Pokedexes in the mobile device version of Pokemon Home. Shiny Enamorous for completing the Hisui Pokedex, and Shiny Manaphy for completing the Sinnoh Pokedex. Now, my initial reaction was, oh, Game Freak is just completely devaluing shiny Pokemon, but there's always been shiny Pokemon mystery gifts, and you actually have to earn these, so I think it's a pretty nice reward just to get one shiny, potentially exclusive Pokemon. And then we also saw this with the Kanto Pokedex, and for Generation 8, that if you go Galar, Isle of Armor, and Crown Tundra. Now, with all the weirdness around getting Meltan, cool, we have shiny Meltan now, but Keldeo, shiny locked since Generation 5. Like, it's crazy to think about. Game Freak just suddenly went, oh, by the way, shiny Keldeo is now possible. Here you go, you just gotta complete the Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC decks. Which makes you wonder, wait, what is left? How is the progression of shiny Pokemon locks gone? So here we are, Victini. That's it for Generation 5. So depending on the last time you looked at this, it's kind of crazy to think about. But also, wait a second, Game Freak put themselves in a weird position with exclusive shiny Pokemon, mostly like Mythicals, but then they also just started shiny locking all the legendaries, and they keep shiny locking all the legendaries, which is going to be some kind of forced event at some point, which makes it like really confusing. So it's like, did they not learn from their mistakes? Now they just keep piling up the list more and more, because if we go back to 2016, so November 2016, when Pokemon Sun and Moon came out, this is what the list looked like. You had the Ultra Beast, which kind of makes sense. We had this kind of new age start on shiny locking legendaries, even though that did happen for Xerneas and Yveltal. But they got an event, so it was cool. Generation 5 mythical Pokemon, well, you can't get them inside the game, so you have to wait until a shiny event happens. Shiny Celebi just didn't exist. And then Hoopa and Volcanion were weird because just getting those Pokemon, they were unobtainable as Pokemon for a while. We have the Generation 7 legendaries, those were just shiny locked, and then like, okay, all of that stuff makes sense, and then another mythical Pokemon. But now we look at where it is, like some of it makes sense. Okay, yeah, Cap Pikachu. That was a movie promotion. Who even knows how that distribution is going to go again and how these events are going to carry around. But not having those shiny, interesting, except they were actually possible to be shiny. So there was no shiny model, but if you soft reset and you rolled the shiny, it's technically a shiny Pokemon. You could have a shiny Ashcat Pikachu and not know it, and it's not a glitch. So yeah, Pokemon lore, kind of weird with all this stuff. Ash Greninja, like other weird exclusives where it's like, okay, that not being shiny, that's a thing. Still no shiny Victini as of yet. Hoopa, Volcanion. We have shiny Solgaleo Lunala event, but never happened. Like, why not just give shiny Cosmog? That way you could choose your own adventure or something somehow. And then Magearna is where it gets really weird and this completely falls apart. So we have a big flashbang warning. There you go, because Magearna doesn't even have a shiny sprite in Pokemon Sun and Moon when it's introduced, but the Pokeball form does. So yeah, just both Magearna, like shiny Magearna doesn't have anything. However, introduction into Pokemon Home gets an official shiny Magearna sprite. So like wasn't recognized because even Game Freak at that point is like, well, we're never going to make this thing shiny, or it's not happening in this generation. So then it took for Pokemon Home to update that. And then we have the shenanigans of the Pokeball form being a Pokemon Home distribution, but either way, it's just the regular one. So we don't have the cool Ultra Ball Magearna, and we still have no shiny Magearna at all. Marshadow. Now this means like Melmetal Gigantamax form, because that just doesn't exist as of yet, despite having the shiny Meltan, so that's just its own weirdness. Cubfu, Urshifu, Zarude, so mythical. Glastrier and Spectrier kind of being annoying, but also kind of making sense because we have a mythical Pokemon, and if you soft reset these to be shiny and then they fused, yeah, Game Freak dodged a bullet on that one, but also kind of forces like, okay, cool, we can't have shiny Pokemon even though they're just naturally obtainable and usable legendary Pokemon. Blood Moon Ursaluna, well, yeah, we just get into a mess and we have games and crossovers and all the other new things happening. Gimmighoul. So the Pokemon Go form of Gimmighoul, that shiny can just happen whenever, at any time. There was the event that made Shiny Golden Go a thing inside of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and then the legendaries. Why, Game Freak? What is the point of just shiny locking your regional legendary Pokemon? I don't know. I can understand the box legendaries, but it's also kind of dumb. Just it's going to get released, and people are going to shiny hunt them anyway at some point. Now, the Paradox Pokemon are interesting because they're kind of like Ultra Beast, but also not really, and you just get them shiny in the wild in the game, and there's also an easier way of getting them shiny by using sandwiches to match up with their typings, except for the exclusives, so Walking Wake and Iron Leaves, those being raid events to get those Pokemon. Makes sense they're not shiny since you can't get them. And then, like, good job, Game Freak, for all of this other nonsense you've just thrown into the game. So we have the second set of a legendary grouping, because we can't call them trios anymore, because we have the quad here, and then we also have the quad from Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But then we get our trio, Ogerpon, which is also just kind of like a really special Pokemon. And then I think this just kind of shows the problems of too many exclusives. So like these have effectively mythical obtaining methods, kind of, where it's either event exclusive or once per game unlock, and then that leads to a lot of problems for the shiny distribution unless you want to make that shiny, but Game Freak doesn't want people soft resetting for the shinies anymore. And now, like, the list just keeps on growing. So you might be thinking, like, oh, there's almost no shiny Pokemon left after Game Freak does something like this. Keldeo's finally available, and they just gave us a free Meltan. So if you had a problem getting Meltan, well, now you just get one that's shiny. So there you go. That's cool. But nah, we're in a shiny mess. And even if we exclude things like, okay, Ash Greninja, Pokeball Vivillon, and Cat Pikachu, like, sure, we remove those. Those don't really count. And also, like, Dada, Zarude, and, like, the very special alt Pokemon, kind of like Spiky Ear Pikachu. So that is kind of neat when you think about it. It's like, oh, Spiky Ear Pikachu never spiritually died. We still have, like, the successors of, like, special little alt Pokemon. So I'm not gonna be like, oh, if those never get a shiny, then it doesn't count, and we still won't have every shiny. But looking at this, no, we're never gonna have, like, every shiny Pokemon available. And it felt like, yeah, you know what? That's kind of fair back in the day. If we never see shiny Zygarde or Hoopa or Magearna or something, it'd be okay. But at this point, it's like, yeah, it's just absolutely never, ever happening. So that's how messy the exclusive shiny Pokemon have gotten. And then also, if you just keep scrolling on Cerebi, we have the shiny locks. So it actually isn't something that exclusively started in Generation 6, because it was a part of Generation 5. And, like, even the Liberty Guardian Victini, you can't shiny reset for, even though if you got an event, you know, you can actually get shiny Shaman in Generation 4 if you have Oak's Letter, because it wasn't shiny locked. And you can even get shiny Manaphy in Generation 4, but there's shenanigans around that. Either way, Game Freak just started locking it down. I guess they didn't like people shiny hunting in Generation 4. And also, you go back, it's like, oh yeah, even Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres all shiny locked. You were never going to get a shiny Mewtwo in Pokemon X and Y. Which is kind of crazy to think about. And then we have just all the new legendaries and special Pokemon being introduced into the game. And now it's like, yep, you just can't get any of that. Some Pokemon are gifts. Like, it's weird that Gladion can just gift you a shiny type Null, but not in Pokemon Sword and Shield. You can even get a shiny Poipole in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, because that gift was actually just not shiny locked. It's also not affected by the shiny charm. So if you never got the shiny charm, you actually have full odds, like the same odds as someone with a shiny charm for soft resetting for a Poipole. So good luck, have fun with that. Other gifts are just shiny locked in Generation 7. And then we have DLC. Like, you can't even get it from all the other Diglett gifts. So, like, Game Freak hates shiny Pokemon, but then also has the events, where the wild area events for the mass outbreaks, those are just like the most free shiny Pokemon you will ever get. And then Pokemon Home just says, oh yeah, by the way, here's all of the exclusive Pokemon we've been sitting on for a while. Can't get the Meloetta. All of the ones, like, why, like, getting DLC, re-releasing legendaries, all those are shiny locked, but they weren't in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But it's also weird because Game Freak could have just buried this problem, been like, yeah, you can shiny soft reset for the Keldeo if you really feel like it. And then they did a similar thing with the Keldeo as they did for Meloetta in Blueberry Academy. And the weird thing is there was also game data in the Crown Tundra for Victini, but Victini was just never available. The mystery was never solved. So we could have had Victini. They didn't make it shiny huntable. And then like the last Generation 5 Pokemon, Victini, still no shiny. So I wonder when that rollout is, you know, a week or two from now, where it's just like, hey, just complete Generation 5 decks. Or do they do it for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Like, get all the Blueberry Academy Pokemon and Kitakami, and that's how you get your Victini. So some of the most awaited shiny event Pokemon just kind of go out like a fart in the wind, and that's kind of it, I guess. So tell me your thoughts down below. I'm kind of mixed, like I said, because like technically you earn it, but also when you just kind of reflect on shiny locks and unobtainable shiny Pokemon, it's gotten really stupid over the years, very quietly. And you might not have like noticed like how many shiny locks there are and how gated it is, because like, oh wait a second, back in Ultra Moon, I just shiny hunted all the legendaries, and that was actually really fun. And I didn't try it for Scarlet and Violet, but you actually just couldn't do it. Real cool, Game Freak. So comments on that, like, comment, share, fun stuff, relevant video while we wait for Pokemon Day. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.